My name is Grace. I'm 23 years old. And there's a part of my story that I've never said out loud before, because even when I think about it now, it sounds too cruel to be real. It starts with my dad, Samuel. He wasn't just a good father, he was my whole world. The kind of man who made you feel safe just by standing in the room. He taught me how to ride a bike, how to braid rope, how to climb trees without fear but with caution. He worked 2 jobs just to make sure I never felt the weight of what we didn't have. And then, he was gone. A car accident. A single moment. A crushing phone call that shattered my life. I was 12. I remember everything about that day. The color of the sky. The cold dinner sitting on the table untouched. The silence in the house once the police left. My mother, Lorraine, just sitting there, staring through me like I wasn't even real. I thought it was the grief. I thought she was too broken to speak. But what I didn't realize was that she was already planning her escape. Because less than 24 hours later, without warning, without even a hug goodbye, she signed the papers that gave me away. She didn't cry. She didn't explain. She just told me, coldly, "You'll be staying with another family. I can't take care of you right now." Right now? I didn't understand. I thought maybe it was temporary. That she'd come back once she'd pulled herself together. But she never did. That night, I was picked up by strangers, kind people. Yes, but strangers. I cried myself to sleep in a bed that wasn't mine, surrounded by walls that smelled like lavender and unfamiliar perfume. I kept thinking, she'll call. She'll explain. She'll say sorry. She never did. I didn't know it then, but while I was unpacking my childhood into a stranger's guest room, my mother was doing something else entirely. She was moving in with my uncle, my dad's brother. Yeah, you heard that right. The same man who stood at my father's funeral, who cried beside me as we lowered Dad into the ground, who promised he'd always be there for me. They weren't just grieving together. They were together. They had been, long before Dad ever died. The truth came out in pieces. Quiet whispers from extended family. An overheard conversation between social workers. At first, I refused to believe it. I clung to this version of my mother that was still human, still redeemable. A woman too crushed by grief to function, not one who ran off with her dead husband's brother like it was some soap opera. But eventually, I saw it for what it was. She didn't fall apart after Dad died. She was finally free. Free from the life she never wanted. Free from being a mother. Free to start over, without me. And just like that, I became an orphan with living parents. My adoptive family, the Donovans, they weren't perfect, but they were good. They were kind to me in a way that didn't demand anything in return. My new mom, Ellen, always gave me space when I needed it and warmth when I didn't know I did. My adoptive father, Peter, was quiet but steady. The kind of man who didn't say, "I love you," often, but showed it in the way he waited up for me when I stayed late at school. In the way he fixed the squeaky hinges on my door without being asked. In the way he cried during my high school graduation like I was his own flesh and blood. It took time, but I grew into myself again. Therapy helped. Art helped more. I started painting grief on canvas. Anger in brush strokes. The ache of abandonment in every color I couldn't name. I even got a scholarship to art school, which felt like my father, my real father, smiling down on me. 10 years passed. 10 birthdays without a call. 10 Christmases without a card. 10 long years where I thought, maybe the chapter is closed. Maybe she's gone forever. I should have known better. It started with a message on Instagram. A private account. No profile picture. Just a single line. "It's your mother. I want to talk." My hands went cold. I didn't reply. 3 days later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. But I recognized the handwriting immediately. Slanted. Sharp. Almost angry in how neat it was. Inside was a photo of me as a toddler, sitting on Dad's shoulders. We were at a park. I had no memory of it. But I looked happy. I looked whole. There was a note. "I made mistakes. I'd like to fix them before it's too late. Please call me. Lorraine." Too late for what? I didn't call. But I couldn't throw the photo away either. And then she showed up. At the gallery. I had a small show, just a handful of pieces, part of a student showcase. I told only close friends. But somehow she found it. I was standing near one of my paintings, a dark, jagged piece titled, "Unmothered." And there she was. Real. Present. Wearing a soft pink blouse like she hadn't shattered my life a decade ago. "Grace," she whispered, like the name still belonged to her. I froze. It took everything in me not to scream. She asked to talk. Somewhere quiet. I agreed, more out of shock than anything else. We sat in a corner cafe, and she started spinning her tale. I was broken. I didn't know how to be a mother without your father. I lost myself. I made choices I regret every day. I stared at her manicured nails, at the new diamond ring on her hand. Is that from Uncle Darren? I asked, flatly. She blinked, didn't answer. And that's when I knew. She hadn't come to make amends. She'd come because she wanted something. I let her talk. About healing. About reconnection. About how she believed in second chances. The words spilled out of her mouth like she'd rehearsed them in front of a mirror. Polished. Pretty. Hollow. I asked one question. Why now? She hesitated. Her fingers tightened around her coffee cup. Then she gave me the answer that stripped the mask away. Because your cousin is getting married, she said. The whole family will be there. And I don't want things to be awkward. It would mean a lot to everyone if you were there. I blinked. That was it? 10 years of silence. 10 years of not knowing if I was alive. And she wanted me back so she could save face? It wasn't about me. It was never about me. It was about image. Optics. Reputation. She wanted to parade me around like a display piece, proof that she was still a mother, still someone worthy of sympathy. She wanted to rewrite the story she'd abandoned. And she needed me to play along. You want me to show up to your family's wedding, I said slowly, so you don't have to explain where I've been for the last decade? She opened her mouth to argue, but I kept going. And what do I get in return? A warm handshake? A seat in the back? A half-hearted apology whispered between hors d'oeuvres. Her face twisted. Grace, don't be dramatic. It's not like I wanted things to happen this way. And that broke me. No, I snapped. You wanted my father's brother. You wanted his house, his money, his hand. So you gave up your daughter like she was luggage. She looked around nervously. People had started to stare. Lower your voice, she hissed. I stood up. No, you don't get to tell me what to do anymore. She reached out to grab my arm. And that's when I dropped the bomb. I know everything. The affair didn't start after Dad died. It started before. While he was still alive. While he was still trying to fix your broken marriage. You were sleeping with his brother. And the moment he was gone, you threw me away because I reminded you of the one decent thing you ever had. Her eyes widened. Who told you that? I smiled. Cold. Steady. Uncle Darren did. Or should I say, your ex-husband. Yes, you didn't hear that part, huh? Her lips parted, speechless. Because yes, Darren had contacted me, too. Months earlier. He said he wanted to apologize. At first, I ignored him. But curiosity won. We met for coffee. And what he told me confirmed every suspicion I'd buried deep. He said my mother manipulated him. That she told him lies about my father. That when the truth started to come out, when he realized she was the one pulling strings, he tried to leave. But by then, it was too late. The marriage was already rotting from the inside. And so was their reputation. So now she wanted me, the daughter she abandoned, to help sweep up the mess she made. No, absolutely not. After that confrontation in the cafe, I thought she'd back off. She didn't. She kept texting me long, guilt-laced messages about rebuilding, honoring my father, and how family should be together. But I saw through it now. It was never about family. It was about damage control. Because word had started to spread. I wasn't the only one who knew what Lorraine had done. Uncle Darren had confessed to his parents, to a few cousins. And as the wedding approached, the one she wanted to fix things for, cracks began to show in her carefully painted image. I had a choice. Stay silent or speak. And I spoke. I sent one message to my cousin, the bride. I told her I wasn't coming to the wedding, but I thought she deserved to know the truth. I didn't give her the ugly details, just enough to open a door. She opened it, and she walked straight through. The wedding still happened, but not the way Lorraine had hoped. Several family members distanced themselves. A few outright refused to be seated near her. She called me the day after, crying. Do you have any idea what you've done to me? And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid to answer. Yes, I said. Exactly what you did to me. Then I blocked her number. Permanently. Because the truth is, I didn't owe her forgiveness. I didn't owe her closure. I didn't owe her anything. She didn't just abandon me. She rewrote history and expected me to play along with the lie. But I have my own story now. One built on truth, not appearances. I still visit Dad's grave sometimes. I tell him everything. The pain. The healing. The pieces I've rebuilt from the ruins he never got to see. And I like to believe he knows. That he's proud. Because I may not have had a mother. but I had him. And now, I have me. Whole, strong, unashamed, and unclaimed by the woman who gave me away.